Welcome back. I'm still with social and political commentator James Melville. James, really shocking news about Huw Edwards, the former chief news anchor of the state broadcaster, household name, announced the death of the Queen, has commentated on the great events of state, a major public figure. Now, we know that he fell from grace over an inappropriate relationship with a young man. He is alleged to have paid £35,000 for pictures from that guy. His mother contacted the BBC some time ago to say, listen, Huw Edwards is forging an inappropriate relationship with my son and I'd like him to stop. The BBC launched some kind of investigation, but it wasn't thorough. I'm not sure that mother even heard from anybody. So in frustration, she went to the Sun newspaper. And the Sun newspaper, this was getting on for a couple of years ago now, a year and a half. They ran the story, very big, and were basically beaten out of continuing with that story. You're just whipping up a story, you shouldn't do this, and Huw Edwards has got mental health issues and so on and so forth. And everybody go, the Sun, what a disgraceful thing to do. Leading that charge, the disdain for the Sun newspaper was, of course, the BBC. And now we have to stress that, of course, a man is innocent until proven guilty. There is no suggestion Huw Edwards is guilty of these charges, but he is charged with 3 serious offences of making indecent pictures of children. 37 images were found. 37 pictures were found on his WhatsApp app, and 6 of them are alleged to be Category A, which are images of the worst explicit kind. I think you can imagine what that is. So I guess my question to you is, maybe when a newspaper reveals a story, perhaps the BBC might not be so pompous about it next time and let the Free Press do its job. The Sun did a good job here and it was browbeaten off that story, and I don't think that's right.
Yeah, they were. And there's a lot of quite influential individuals who went down that path, and they've been very, very quiet today. As you pointed out, we have to see what obviously happens during court proceedings. And I agree that it's innocent till proven guilty. But I think the question that needs to be raised beyond that is about procedure, investigation, and again, due diligence of the BBC. And it seems to be a bit of a theme tonight, Kevin, that, we need, public trust in our institutions to do the right thing, because at the moment, our institutions, not just government, but in all areas, including the BBC, I think the confidence is on the floor. And with the BBC, there's a bit of form here if you obviously go back to Jimmy Savile.
Yep.
And I think the BBC, which was, for me and many others, seen as the gold standard of broadcasting, has somehow lost its way through a lack of transparency, and actually could have a discussion about the content and broadcasting as well. But I think on this one, we've got to obviously wait and see what happens. But there is a bigger picture about confidence in our institutions, and in particular, in this case, the BBC, about whether they were investigating fully, and also why they felt a need to go on the offensive against other media outlets, in particular the Sun, when actually what they needed was actually to do an investigation and due diligence before they jumped to that early conclusion.
Absolutely. Again, must stress there's no suggestion that Huw Edwards is guilty of these charges, but he will appear in Westminster Magistrates Court tomorrow, charged with 3 offences of making indecent pictures of children. 37 images altogether, 6 of which are in Category A, which are the worst possible kind. That is, of course, allegedly. But the BBC, I just think it's got to grow out of this impulse it has to keep secrets. And by the way, on a general basis, I think the media, we have to be careful about this. Now, I'm not saying that Huw Edwards wasn't suffering from mental health issues. Apparently, he went to hospital and all that. But you know what I'm saying. If you're in any trouble at all now, you're a public figure, you just say, I've got mental health issues, and all the press run away. oh, no, we can't exacerbate the mental health issues. We've got to be careful that mental health doesn't become the excuse that all people in the public eye use as soon as they're in trouble to get the papers off the scent. We've got to be careful about this.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's also another discussion about people jumping too quickly to conclusions based on their own political biases. You know, on this story, and actually the examples of what's happened in terms of, you know, with what's happened with a lot of aspects of the police over the last week, people are jumping to conclusions before there's evidence there. And social media is not good for that. Yeah. You know, everyone has an opinion sometimes before there's evidence. And actually the best way round is when the evidence should form the opinion. And it seems to me that what happened in this particular case is that, going back a bit and going to the Sun story, that there was a lot of defence for the individuals involved and BBC, but the story obviously has taken on a different turn now, and we'll see what happens in the court of law. But there is something beyond that, and I touched on this earlier, that it goes back to the public again. The public aren't just losing confidence in our politicians or our governments. They're losing confidence in all our institutions. Yeah. BBC being one of them. Yeah, and the BBC need to step up to this now. You know, fundamentally, we pay their wages. It's the same thing. So we have every right as individuals to scrutinise them, to question them, to call them out when they're not being transparent. There's a sort of, I think, an inherent smugness with aspects of the BBC that they're somehow above. They're
better us, they're superior, yeah. They're incapable of being impartial or being unbiased, biased and all this. They are holier than thou, and I think they've got to look to themselves. They could raise their game as well. James, got to go now, though. Really good to talk to you as always. James Melville there, social and political commentator.